The sky above the alien planet was dark and heavy. Thick clouds covered the sun, and the air was filled with the sound of distant explosions. The ground shook with every blast, and the smell of smoke and burning filled the air. This was a battlefield like no other. The small group of aliens fought with all their strength, but the enemy kept coming. They were losing. Among them was a young alien girl named Lyra. She was a warrior of her tribe, trained since childhood to fight for her people. Her skin was a deep blue, and her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her hand stayed steady on her weapon. She was tired. Her arms ached, her legs felt weak, but she could not stop now, not when so many depended on her. Lyra looked around. Her fellow fighters were fewer now. Many had fallen, and those still standing were wounded and exhausted. The enemy was stronger, bigger, and more numerous. Their weapons were strange and deadly, and their armor shone under the dim light. Lyra knew her tribe was close to defeat. Suddenly, from the edge of the battlefield, a new figure appeared. It was unlike anyone Lyra had ever seen. Standing tall and straight, wearing a shiny suit that covered his entire body, the newcomer moved calmly through the chaos. His face was hidden behind a dark visor, but his presence was clear. He was a human. Lyra froze. Humans were legends in her world, dangerous, unpredictable, and powerful. Some said they were monsters. Others said they were gods. No one knew why this human was here, in the middle of their battle. Was he friend or foe? Human raised his hand, and with a strange device, fired a bright beam at the enemy. The beam cut through their armor and sent them flying. Lyra's eyes widened. She had never seen such a weapon before. The enemy faltered, confused by this sudden new threat. Human did not stop. He moved quickly, using strange movements and tactics that Lyra could barely understand. He fought with skill and courage, saved a wounded alien from being captured. He blocked attacks with his own body and struck back with precise blows. Lyra felt hope growing inside her chest, but she also felt fear. Could she trust him? What if he was here to spy? What if he wanted to take over their land? Lyra tightened her grip on her weapon and watched carefully. The enemy regrouped and rushed toward the human and Lyra's group. The battle grew fiercer. Lyra fought beside the human, feeling the strange rhythm of his movements. For a moment, it felt like they were not just two different species, but warriors fighting for the same cause. Suddenly, an explosion nearby knocked Lyra off her feet. She hit the ground hard and felt pain shoot through her side. The world blurred for a second, and she thought she might lose consciousness. But then she saw the human rush to her side. Without hesitation, the human pulled Lyra up and covered her. With his body protecting her from flying debris, his voice was calm but firm. "Stay with me," he said. Lyra looked into his visor, searching for any sign of lies or cruelty, but she saw only determination and kindness. In that moment, she made a choice. She would trust this human, at least for now. The battle continued around them, but Lyra felt a strange calm. The human was not just another fighter. He was a force they needed. Together, they might turn the tide, as the sun began to set behind. The thick clouds casting a red glow over the battlefield, Lyra and the human prepared to fight side by side. The war was far from over, but for the first time, hope flickered in the hearts of the weary warriors. The question remained, who was this human really? Friend or foe? Ally or enemy? Only time would tell. The battle was over for now, but the air still felt heavy with fear and uncertainty.
Lyra sat on a broken stone, her side still hurting from the fall.
The wound was not deep, but the pain reminded her how close they had come to losing everything. Around her, the few survivors of her tribe were cleaning their weapons and tending to their wounds. The silence was tense. Everyone was waiting, watching, unsure of what would happen next. The human, whose name was Mark, stood nearby. He looked calm and collected, but his eyes were sharp and alert. He scanned the horizon, ready for any sign of new danger. He was different from anyone Lyra had ever met. His movements were quick but careful. He spoke softly when he talked to the others, but his voice carried a strange confidence that made people listen. Lyra finally gathered her strength and stood up. She walked over to Mark. "Why are you here?" she asked simply, her voice steady. But full of questions, Mark looked at her, his eyes serious behind his visor. "I came to help," he said.
I
I have skills and technology that can make a difference." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Humans have come before. They only brought war, or took what they wanted. How can I trust you?" Mark nodded, understanding her doubt. "I don't expect trust right away. I am not here to fight your people. I want to fight with you." Before Lyra could respond, one of the elder aliens stepped forward. His skin was pale with age, and his eyes held the wisdom of many years. "Human," he said slowly, "your presence here is strange. Why risk your life for us? What do you want in return?" Mark looked directly at the elder. "I want nothing but peace. I came from a distant world, and I want to stop the fighting here. If I can help your tribe survive, that is enough for me." The elder studied Mark for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. "Very well. You will join us in this fight. But be warned, our people are wary of outsiders. You must earn their trust." Mark bowed his head slightly. "I understand." Lyra watched this exchange closely. She felt a mix of hope and caution. The war was far from over, and now she had to share the battlefield with this human stranger. Could they really work together? Could this be the start of something new? The next days were hard. The enemy was not defeated. They were regrouping and preparing for another attack. Mark helped the tribe by sharing his knowledge, taught them new ways to use their weapons and how to move more quietly in the dark forests around their village. Lyra trained with him every morning. She was a skilled fighter, but Mark's tactics were different. He used speed and surprise, and he could predict enemy moves in ways she had never imagined. Slowly, she began to respect him. And sometimes she even smiled when he made a joke after a long day. But not everyone in the tribe felt the same. Some warriors whispered that Mark was a spy. Others avoided him completely. One day during a training session, a young alien pushed Mark roughly. "Why should we trust a human?" the young alien shouted. "You don't belong here." Mark stood his ground calmly. "I fight for all who want peace. If you want to fight me instead, I will not run." The tribe's leader stepped between them. "Enough," she said firmly. "Mark is with us now. If you cannot accept that, you may leave." Tension remained, but Mark's courage won some hearts. Slowly, the tribe started to see him not as a stranger, but as a strong ally. One night, as the camp lay quiet under the stars, Lyra and Mark sat by the fire. The sky was clear, and the cool breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. "Tell me about your world," Lyra asked softly. "What is your life like?" Mark smiled behind his visor. "It is very different. My world is full of machines and cities. We fight wars too, but sometimes we forget what we fight for. I came here because I wanted to remember." Lyra looked at him, curious. "Do you miss your home?" "Yes," Mark admitted. "But this place feels important now. Maybe because I found people worth protecting." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the flames dance. Suddenly, a loud noise broke the peace. Shouts echoed from the village. The enemy was attacking again. Lyra jumped up, heart racing. "We must go now." At grabbed his weapons, and together they ran toward the fight. The enemy had surrounded the village from 3 sides. Their numbers were huge, but the tribe was ready. Mark and Lyra fought side by side, their moves perfectly timed. The warriors who once doubted Mark now cheered him on. As the battle raged, Lyra noticed something strange. The enemy was using new weapons, faster and more powerful than before. They had learned from the last fight. Mark's eyes narrowed. "They have help," he said grimly. "Someone is giving them advanced technology." Lyra's heart sank. The war was bigger than she thought. This fight was not just for her tribe, but for the future of the entire planet. After hours of fighting, the enemy finally retreated. The tribe had won, but the cost was high. Many were wounded, and the village was damaged. Lyra looked at Mark, breathing heavily. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You fought well." Mark shook his head. "No, you fought well. We fought well together." As the sun began to rise, casting warm light over the battered village, Lyra realized something new. This human was no enemy. He was a friend. And in this dark time, friendship might be their greatest strength. But deep inside, both knew the war was far from over. Bigger battles, bigger dangers, and bigger secrets waited in the shadows. And together, they would face them. The village was quiet now, but the air was thick with questions. The warriors gathered around the fire, their faces tired but alert. The battle had tested them all, and the presence of the human Mark still stirred mixed feelings. Some saw him as a hero, others as a mystery they did not understand. Lyra sat apart from the crowd. Watching Mark, he was cleaning his weapons carefully, his movements calm and practiced. She had learned much from him in the last days, but many things still puzzled her. "Why did you come here?" Lyra asked softly, stepping closer. Mark looked up, meeting her gaze through the visor. "I can tell you the truth," he said, "but it is not an easy story." Lyra nodded. She was ready to listen. Mark began. "I come from a world far from here, a world that is different in many ways. We live with machines and cities that touch the sky. But our people fight wars too, sometimes for power, sometimes for fear." Lyra listened carefully. "And why this planet?" Mark's voice grew quiet. "I was part of a mission. My group was sent to find new allies against a rising threat, a force that wants to take control of many worlds, including this one." Lyra's eyes widened. "You mean a war beyond this fight?" Mark nodded. "The enemy you fight here is part of something bigger. They have allies, technology, and a plan that could destroy your people and mine." Lyra felt a chill run through her. The fight was not just about her tribe. It was about survival on a scale she never imagined. "But why did you keep this secret?" she asked. "Why did you not tell us before?" Mark looked down as if carrying a heavy burden. "Because I had to earn your trust first. And because the truth is dangerous. If the enemy knew, I told you, they might come faster and stronger." Lyra understood the risk. She felt respect for the human's honesty and the courage it took. Just then, an elder approached. His eyes were sharp, and his voice calm. "Mark, if what you say is true, we must prepare differently. But how do we fight an enemy we do not fully see?" Mark stood. "We must gather information, find where they come from, who helps them, and what their weaknesses are. I have tools that can help us." The elder nodded slowly. "Very well. But be warned, spying on the enemy can be deadly." Over the next days, Mark worked with the tribe's best scouts. He showed them devices that could scan the land and detect movement far away, taught them how to listen to signals and hide better in the dark. Lyra trained harder than ever. She learned to use new weapons and fight in ways she never thought possible. She and Mark became a team, trusting each other more with every step. But late one night, as the camp slept, Mark sat alone by the fire. He opened a small box hidden in his pack. Inside was a glowing crystal, pulsing with light. He whispered to himself, "I hope this will be enough." Suddenly, footsteps approached. Lyra appeared, her face serious. "What is that?" she asked. Pointing to the crystal, Mark hesitated but then nodded. "It is a beacon. It can call for help from my people. But if I use it, they will come, and so will the enemy." Lyra's heart raced. "Are you willing to risk that?" Mark looked at her. "I have no choice. If we do not act soon, your tribe will be lost, and the war will spread. Lyra took a deep breath, and we must be ready. The next morning, the tribe gathered. Mark explained the plan. They would send a small team to find the enemy's base and gather proof of the larger threat. Lyra volunteered to lead the group, with Mark by her side. The tribe trusted them, knowing the danger was great as they prepared. To leave, the elder pulled Mark aside. Remember, you are not alone now. Your fight is our fight. Mark nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also a new strength, as the team stepped into the dense forest. The world seemed quiet, but the shadows hid many secrets. Every step was a step closer to danger and to the truth that could change everything. The forest was thick and dark. Tall trees stood like silent guards, their leaves blocking most of the light. Lyra led the small team carefully, her eyes sharp for any sign of danger. Mark walked beside her, scanning the area with his devices. Searching for the enemy's base, the team moved slowly. Every step could bring them closer to discovery or disaster. The tension was high. Even the smallest sound made their hearts beat faster. After hours of walking, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a large structure, an alien outpost, covered in strange symbols and glowing lights. It was unlike anything Lyra had seen before. The base was heavily guarded by soldiers wearing black armor and carrying powerful weapons, Mark whispered. This must be where they hide their secrets. Lyra nodded. We need to get inside and find out what they are planning, but it won't be easy. The team made a plan. They would sneak in under the cover of darkness, avoid the guards, and search for any information. Lyra felt her stomach tighten. This mission was dangerous, but it was their best chance to save their people. As night fell, the team moved closer to the outpost. The air was cold and heavy. Shadows danced under the moonlight, and every noise seemed louder than it. Mark used a small device to disable some security cameras. This will buy us time, he said quietly. They slipped through a side door left slightly open. Inside, the outpost was cold and metallic. Strange machines hummed softly, and glowing screens displayed maps and data. Lyra's eyes searched the room for anything useful. Then, she spotted a table filled with papers and devices. She quickly began to gather what she could. Mark moved to a terminal and connected his own device. His fingers flew over the controls as he hacked into the system. I'm in, he whispered suddenly. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed, and the sound of heavy boots echoed through the halls. They found us. Lyra shouted, We need to move now. The team raced through the corridors, fighting off guards who tried to block their way. Lyra swung her weapon with precision, taking down anyone who came too close. Mark fired his energy gun, his aim deadly. They burst through the exit just as more enemies appeared. Running as fast as they could, they made it back into the forest, hearts pounding. Safe for the moment, Mark pulled out the data he had downloaded. This is worse than I thought, he said grimly. Lyra looked over his shoulder. The files showed plans for a weapon, one that could destroy entire cities in seconds. The enemy was preparing to attack their tribe and others nearby. This changes everything, Lyra said. We have to warn everyone. We have to stop them. But Mark shook his head. There's more. The weapon is powered by something called the core crystal. Without it, the weapon won't work. If we can find and destroy the crystal, we can save many lives. Lyra clenched her fists. Then that is our next mission. The team returned to the village, where they shared their findings. The tribe's leaders were shocked but grateful. They began to prepare defenses and plan how to protect their people. But as the days passed, Lyra noticed something else. Mark was growing weaker. The long battles and harsh conditions were taking their toll. His normally steady breathing became heavy and his movements slower. One evening, as the sun set in a fiery red sky, Lyra found Mark sitting alone by the river. Are you okay? She asked gently. Mark looked up, trying to smile. I will be. I just need rest. Lyra sat beside him. You have done so much. Without you, we would not have this chance. Mark's eyes softened. I am glad to fight by your side. But this war is bigger than us. We must be ready for anything. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Lyra realized that this moment was a turning point not just in the battle, but in their friendship and trust. They were no longer just two fighters from different worlds. They were partners, and the future of their people depended on them both. But deep down, Lyra knew the road ahead would be even harder. The enemy was strong, and time was running out. And so, with a heavy heart but determined spirit, she prepared for what would come next. The air was thick with tension as Lyra and Mark led the scout team deeper into the enemy's territory. The forest around them was quieter than before, as if it was holding its breath. Every step they took was measured and careful. They knew the enemy was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Lyra's heart beat fast. She could feel danger close, like a shadow lurking just beyond sight. Mark's eyes scanned the trees with his special goggles, but even his advanced technology couldn't detect the hidden threats. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A low rumble echoed through the forest, followed by a sharp crack. Before anyone could react, the ground opened in front of them. A trap. The team fell into a deep pit, its walls too steep to climb. The sound of a heavy gate sliding shut echoed above. They were trapped. Lyra tried to calm her rising panic. "Everyone okay?" she called out. "We're fine," came the answer from the others, voices echoing off the pit walls. Mark examined the gate. "This is no ordinary trap. The enemy knew we were coming. They planned this." Lyra's mind raced. How could they escape? The walls were smooth and tall. The only way out was the locked gate. Suddenly, a cold voice spoke from above. "Welcome, intruders." A group of enemy soldiers appeared on the edge of the pit. Their faces were masked, their weapons ready. Mark stepped forward, raising his hands. "Come in peace. Release us, and we can negotiate." The enemy leader laughed. "Peace. You invade our land and steal our secrets. Now you will pay." The soldiers fired stun beams. Into the pit. Team staggered, struggling to stay awake. Lyra's vision blurred, but she forced herself to stay alert. "Hold on," she whispered. As the enemy prepared to close in, Mark pulled a small device from his belt. He pressed a button, and a flash of bright light exploded above the pit. Guards shielded their eyes, startled. Using the moment, the team moved quickly. Mark activated a grappling hook that shot up and caught on a tree branch. One by one, they climbed out of the pit while the enemy was still recovering. Lyra reached the top and helped the others. They ran into the forest, not looking back. Breathing heavily, Mark said, "That trap was meant to kill us. They want to stop us from finding the core crystal." Lyra nodded. "They have to be more careful. They know we are coming." That night, back at the village, the tribe gathered around the fire. The mood was grim. The trap showed just how serious the enemy was. The elder spoke. "They are stronger than we thought. But we have something they do not, courage and unity." Lyra looked at Mark. "We need a new plan," Mark agreed. "We cannot attack directly. We must find the crystal first. Without it, their weapon is useless." Lyra's eyes lit up. "I will lead a small team to find the crystal's location." Mark nodded. "I will go with you. We cannot do this alone." The next day, the team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. They moved silently through the forest, guided by Mark's devices and Lyra's instincts. Days passed with little sign of the crystal. The forest grew darker and more dangerous. Strange sounds echoed around them, growls, whispers, and the crackling of leaves under unseen feet. One evening, as they rested near a river, Mark studied the data they had collected. "This is it," he said suddenly. "The crystal is in a fortress beyond the mountains." Lyra frowned. "A fortress that will be heavily guarded." Mark's face was serious. "Yes, but we have no choice." They planned their route carefully. The journey would be long and full of risks. As they prepared to leave the next morning, a messenger arrived with urgent news. The enemy was moving toward their village faster than expected. Lyra's heart sank. "They found us." Mark clenched his fists. "We have to warn the tribe and slow them down." The race against time had begun. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the battered village. The air was thick with tension, but also with determination. The enemy was coming fast, and the tribe had little time to prepare. Lyra stood at the center of the village, surrounded by her people. The warriors were ready, their faces painted with colors that told stories of courage and strength. Women and children had been moved to safer places deep in the forest. Elders whispered prayers for protection. Mark stood beside Lyra, his suit dusty and worn from the battles. He looked at the faces around Himalayan's, who had once doubted him, but now trusted him with their lives. "We fight together," Lyra said loudly. "No matter where we come from, we are one." A cheer rose from the crowd, echoing through the trees. Mark stepped forward. "I have seen what the enemy plans. Their weapon is strong, but not unstoppable. We have a chance if we work as one." Lyra nodded. "Then let us show them the strength of our unity." The village prepared defenses, traps, barriers, and watchtowers. Mark shared his technology, helping to build shields and communication devices. The warriors trained harder, learning new tactics and fighting as a single force. As night fell, the village lay quiet but alert. The enemy's approach was marked by distant sounds, marching feet, the hum of machines, and the clatter of weapons. Lyra and Mark stood side by side on a hill overlooking the village. The stars above were bright, but the darkness below was filled with danger. Mark spoke softly. "Whatever happens, we stand together." Lyra's eyes met his. Together. Suddenly, the enemy attacked. Explosions lit the night sky. Beams of energy cut through the air. The ground shook beneath the warriors' feet. Lyra charged forward, leading her people into battle. Her weapon flashed, striking down enemies with swift precision. Mark fought beside her, his gun firing with deadly accuracy. The tribe's warriors moved as one, their courage inspiring each other. The barriers held strong, the traps caught many invaders, and the watchtowers sent warnings. That saved lives. But the enemy was relentless. They pressed harder, pushing the defenders back inch by inch in the chaos. Lyra saw a massive machine, an enormous weapon, capable of destruction beyond anything she had imagined. It was powered by the core crystal, glowing fiercely at its center. Mark shouted, "We must destroy the crystal." Lyra nodded. "Follow me." Together, they fought through enemy lines, protecting each other and their team. The path was dangerous, filled with enemies determined to stop them. Finally, they reached the weapon. The core crystal pulsed with power, casting an eerie light. Mark set his devices to overload the crystal. "This will take time. Defend me." Lyra took position, fighting off waves of enemies. Her heart pounded, but she did not falter. The fate of her people depended on this moment. Suddenly, an enemy soldier broke through and attacked Mark. Lyra saw the danger and rushed to help. With a fierce strike, she took down the attacker, but the fight was far from over. Minutes felt like hours as Mark worked on the crystal. The weapon began to shake and spark. "Almost there," Mark yelled. With a final surge, the crystal exploded in a burst of light and sound. The massive weapon crumbled, its power gone. The enemy forces paused. Stunned by the sudden loss, seizing the moment, the tribe launched a powerful counterattack. Their unity and courage pushed the enemy back. As dawn broke, the battlefield fell silent. The enemy had retreated, defeated. Lyra and Mark stood together, breathless but victorious. The tribe cheered, their voices filled with hope and pride. Lyra looked at Mark and smiled. "Together." Mark smiled back. "Yes, united we are unstoppable." The war was not over, but this victory marked a new beginning. A beginning of trust, friendship, and hope for a future where humans and aliens could stand side by side. The battlefield was quiet now. First light of dawn spread softly over the horizon, painting the sky with warm colors. The village, though battered and worn, stood proud. Its people were alive, and hope was alive with them. Lyra walked through the village, her steps slow but steady. She looked at her friends and family, the warriors and the children, all beginning to rebuild after the long fight. Her heart was heavy with loss, but full of promise. Mark was beside her, leaning on his staff for support. His suit was scratched and dented, and his breathing was still heavy, but his eyes shone with the same fierce determination she had come to admire. The tribe gathered in the center of the village for a final meeting. The elders sat in a circle, their faces grave but hopeful. Lyra stood before them, flanked by Mark and the other leaders. "We have faced great danger," Lyra began, "but together we survived. We fought as one. This war tested us all, but it also showed us something powerful, the strength of unity." The elders nodded in agreement.
Ow.
One of them, the oldest, spoke softly. "Your courage and your trust. And a stranger saved our people. Mark, you are no longer just a human visitor. You are one of us." Mark bowed his head, humbled. "I never expected this. I only wanted to help." Lyra smiled. "He helped us find a new way. A way where humans and aliens fight side by side, where we learn from each other." A cheer rose from the crowd. The tribe was ready to move forward, to rebuild and to grow stronger together. But the war was not the only thing that had changed. Lyra looked out beyond the village, toward the stars. She thought about the future where different worlds could unite, where peace was possible. Mark placed a hand on her shoulder. "There are still dangers out there, other enemies, other threats. But together, we can face them." Lyra nodded together. As the sun rose higher, bathing the village in golden light, a new hope was born. The war had changed them all, but it had also brought them together. And in that new dawn, Lyra and Mark knew one thing for sure. They were not alone anymore. They had each other, and that was enough.